Hello friends, let us see how proposal can be written for applying to any funding agency. We are doing some experimentation or some research, and for doing so we do require funds, and there are many funding agencies that can help us in funding. But the most important thing is to convince the funding agencies via proposal presentation. So we need to prepare the proposal in such a way that it should convince the funding agency that the funds, if released, will be properly used one side, and other side will make a huge difference to the humanity. So let's see what our proposals should look like. So just give a briefing about how our proposal should be. So look at the contents of the proposal. So it all begins with the title page. Then we have abstract. Then we have introduction. Then see the past literature, and try to convince that such a thing does not exist in the past. So only our research is going to provide a facility and all that. So for that, we review the literature. Then we fix up the objectives of our project, and then we go in detail about what methodology we adopt to get through, and we propose a timeline so that the funding agency will know how we are planning, and also helps us to be on time. So to maintain the schedule, we define a timeline, and then we find out overall what budget is required for taking up this task, and we define the expected outcomes, and finally give the reference list, what all the literature we have gone through, and the various appendices which we need to put on. So that was a overview of what all our proposal should contain. Now coming to the first part, that is a title page. So the title page should contain the title, then the name of the principal investigator, the affiliation of the principal investigation, and the contact information of the principal investigation. Then we have abstract. Under abstract, we define the objectives of our project. Then we define the various methods we are going to adopt. And then we are just talking about the expected results and the expected outcomes. Then we conclude our abstract and the implications of our work over the society, and then we list the keywords so that will help in the future investigators to search for our work, or the what are the key components we are working on, we list them as a keywords. So this whole thing should be of length between 150 to 300 words. So we should make sure that the abstract is between 150 and 3 words. So intelligently we should put that in order. The next is the introduction part, which consists of three things. So first thing is about the background. What is the background of our work? Why we expected to do this particular research or this particular experimentation and all that. And then we propose the statement of research problem, and then we justify the importance and relevance of this particular research. So unless until it is properly justified, no funding agency will come forward to fund us. So we need to very specifically able to make sure that this is properly done. So the next part is about the literature review. So here we review the first literature, what all literature we have for the given topic, research topic, and find out what all are done in this field, and then identify what are the gaps that are there with what the literature talks of and what we are aiming at. So the literature talks of something which is not up to what we are interested in solving. So definitely there will be some gap. If there is no gap, it means whatever problem we are trying to address is already been solved by someone else. Then doesn't make any sense to reinvent the wheel and repeat the same experimentation and all that. So it is essential to mention what the gaps are, and that has to be very well documented. The next component in our proposal will be defining the objectives in detail. So objectives, they should be clear and specific research questions that the project aims to address. So what objective means? It's a clear and specific research questions that the project aims to address. So it contains the main objective of our research work, and then we get into more detailed, we get in specific objectives of the detail, and then to make sure that our work is better and all that. So to make it convincing, we do require measurable outcomes. That means something to quantify so that it can be compared. Just qualitative outcomes are not sufficient to prove the validity of our work or a necessity of our work. So we do require some measurable outcomes, and of course the time frame has to be well established so that in that time frame the whole activities should take place, and within the time frame the whole objectives are met, and so on. Then we need to write what is the relevance to the research problem, why the research problem is relevant for the current situation and all that. Then we prove, write the alignment with the research design. So we align our objectives with the result design, and then verify how feasible is our ideas when it comes to implementation. So has to be feasible. So feasibility test has to be done. So feasibility maybe in terms of resources like monetary funds, other resources like the equipment required, experimentation setup, and manpower, and all other resources are to be considered and make sure that all are available in the given timeline and is feasible to take up this work. Then the objective has to be clear and precise. So there should be a good clarity and precision about the objectives. So the next activity is about the methodology, how we take up all these actions. So there is a design and methodology used. We need to define how we design and how what all the methodology we use for that. And then we do require the data for using and designing and developing. And the data is of how to get the data. So we need to define the sampling strategy while getting the data. Then we need to define the collection methods for getting the data. And then we should have a proper plan of data analysis, and then the various resources that are required for collecting the data, for sampling the data and analyzing the data. So we should have proper resources, and the resources may be instruments and the techniques. So instruments are used to for collecting and cleaning the data, and techniques are used to identify the pattern features from the data for the future usage. So that's all about the data. Then we do need to consider ethical aspects while designing the methodology, and ethical considerations would include informed consent, that yes, we do give our consent that we are doing such and such activity, and we understand the ethical and other issues. So we give our consent about that. Then we have to maintain the confidentiality and privacy from where the data is collected and all that. So if at all any such issues are there, so we must uh, confirm that the confidentiality and the privacy of the data sources are well maintained, and we must make sure that if our work is some chemical based or experimental based, then we must ensure that it has minimum effect or minimum harm to the society, harm to the environment, and all that. Yes, respect for the participants is one of the important aspects. So when we do experiments like social experiments, understanding social behavior and such things, then we do require participants to answer our queries so that these answers can be taken as a input data for further research. But while collecting information from these participants, we must ensure that a proper respect for them is made available. We need to look at what are the illusions possible and try to make sure that there are no such illusions. Everything is transparent and its diversity should be taken care. So we must make sure that all our activities are in compliance with the ethical guidelines. So we must give the consent in writing that all these ethical guidelines and all such things are taken care of. Then, of course, there will be conflict of interest. So we must make sure that there are some guidelines to deal with the conflict. So when there are conflicts, so we must make sure to have a proper method to come out of these conflict of interest. So when a group of people are working, there will be conflicts among the people in the group. So it has to be ethically solved. So we must have some ethical guidelines to take care of such conflicts. So that's about ethical considerations, about the methodology. The next thing is about the timeline. The timeline, we have the start and end dates. Then when the thing starts, when the project ends. So start and end dates we need to talk on. Then we should talk about the major milestones on our timeline, and then we should break down our tasks so that each part of the task is manageable. And then we look at dependencies of each task, then duration of each task. Then we should allocate the resources accordingly, and the responsibility of each task must be properly assigned, and then monitoring and review should be done on regular basis, and we should have some contingency plan if something goes wrong. We should be able to come out with a plan B, so that if plan A fails, then there should be some way out. So that's all about timeline. Then the important aspect is a budget. So the budget can be broken down into detailed components. So there can be some money spent on personal cost, the fund for equipment and supplies. So we need to have a separate funding for travel expenses. Then participant compensation. So when a big project is taken up, then we do require many information and training and all that. So for that, we need to make our team participate in various conferences and all such things. So all this cost has to be compensated. Then contractual services. So every part of the human resource cannot be on our role. Some of them may be on contract. So we need to properly mention. So for this project, how much each one is going to get and all that. Then we do need to publish our work so as to uh, make sure that it's our work. So for publication and dissemination, we do require some cost that incur some cost that has to be put in the budget, and then some indirect cost overheads which we can't forethink at the time of making the budget. So that has to be some amount has to be reserved for unforeseen activities. So that comes as the overhead. Then we have contingency funds. Then it altogether is the total project budget. The other part is the justification. So we have given a big list of budget. So for each of the items, we need to justify why that is required. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense and it will not uh, be convincing to the fund provider and hence won't make any uh, further. So it will be essential for justifying each and every act, why the project is being done, why the amount is spent on different headings. Everything has to be properly justified under the budget. So the next is expected outcomes. So under expected outcomes, we have anticipated results. So at the time of beginning the project, we can only anticipate the results. We will not be having the actual results, exact results. And then we try to convince the potential impact on the field and the society about the expected outcome. So, what our project results are the outcomes of our project, how it impacts on the field and the society is what we need to put on to convince the funding agency. And finally, we need to list out all the documents, all the research papers, all other references used for creating this document to be well put in the references. And we do have various appendices. So, where in the project report itself, it may not be possible to bundle all of them. So we can separate them and as an appendix, we can keep on appending to the major document. So main document contains the overviews, more fine details and all can be added as appendices to the documents. So that's the various components of project proposal making. That's it for now. Thank you.